Peace, blessings, and elevation. We will bring you inspiring stories, expert insight, and practical tools and information to support you. Types in embracing our authentic selves, we can pave the way for a brighter future for ourselves and our children. Power, heal, and support fathers and men on their journey. I'm your host, Kelly Little, aka the Village King. Welcome to the Father's Haven. Peace and power from the premier institution for fatherhood in terms of support, guidance, navigation, the exchange of information between elder fathers to young fathers and to our fathers who stand in the gaps in between. Here at the Father's Haven, one of the things that we love to make sure we center ourselves is in brotherhood and our interconnectability one to another. Today on the show, I got my brother M'Bwebe Ishanga, the type of service I would provide. So, be nice. A stout individual in our community, helping moving us around financial literacy, understanding money, digital marketing, videography, and history. Welcome. Welcome to the show, and Sting.
Yes, sir.
AKA Streamline.
That's right.
So let's get into it, brother. One of the things I want to ask you first is just to center the people a little bit in what it is you do, how you embody fatherhood and manhood in the community.
That's it.
And then we'll move on to some other questions that you share a little bit of that.
Okay. First and foremost, salute to be graduate for like the connection. Since coming to Charlotte and building with you has been like you the brother, I've been looking for, like the brother from different mother. Yeah, it's good to meet men that are like understanding the importance of brotherhood and the focus on our children. So what I do is I wear many hats. My love foundationally is African history, knowing about our story, and not only reclaiming it, but fashioning it in a way that the next generation is palatable for them. Meaning that, maybe it's not these thick books that we used to read it. So how do we fashion to where it's a little quicker, a little bit more to the point, and a little bit more entertaining? You know what I mean? So that's the foundation of what I am. I'm a visual artist, graphic artist, videographer, web developer, and I've honed those skills so that it enabled me to tell my own story. You know what I mean? Because most of us, we're kind of one or two dimensional, where, okay, I might be a writer, but I don't know how to make the music. Or I can, do one thing, but I need somebody else with another component to complete the task. I've always been by nature one to know how to do a little bit of everything. So it enables me to not only write my own content, but also visualize, produce it, and all that kind of stuff, lay it out. So with that said, I'm a writer. I've been writing books I've been writing since 1991. Have my own magazine. We're in our 31st year called GhettoTimes.com. It's a African-centered perspective writing. And we talk about our story. And then that's transitioned me into, learning about other stuff, because that's the artistic part. Mm-hmm. But then where is the sustainability part? And that sustainability part came when I realized that, the job tenure that our parents and grandparents are used to are no longer there. So in wanting to be an artist, you also have to be able to sustain and live. So it made sense to me, after losing my job, working for the NBA for 12 years, that I need to find a way to live off my finances and live off my investments and savings. And that took me to that journey of becoming financially, I would say, having sovereignty as far as dignity, and learning about what money does and how it can help you live off of that instead of you working for it. That rat race psychosis, breaking it. So, it is what it is. But the biggest part for me is the give back is taking that information, making it palatable for children, because these are things I wish I knew as, 8, 9, 10, if not 5, so that what type of world can a child have when they know these certain things, these basic things about being an adult, how to exist in this space and not get caught up in the rat race.
Yeah, for sure. Look, so many different things, right? And we talked about that rat race and how you took control of your circumstances, created your own revenue stream. But since we're touching on the father's haven and a place of refuge and peace, how do you find your peace among the chaos in the world of networking, in the world of entrepreneurship, in the world where we are not only striving, but striving to survive. And we need to get to a space of thriving.
Like, I'll tell you, man, one of the hardest things to deal with is when you feel like you got a solution and you want to tell the world.
Yeah.
So it's in essence, you're trying to put the world on your back and lead them to this promised land based on the solution. So it's a never-ending struggle because you want to help so many people. But the reality is that I have to go back and channel the ancestral spirit of Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
Because she said, she would have saved hundreds, if not thousands more, if they knew that they were slaves. So what I'm saying is that although I feel like I have a remedy, not to say I'm the answer, but I have a remedy towards making things better for ourselves, not everybody wants that type of medicine. Not everybody thinks they need any medicine. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the struggle is, because you want to help people, but they haven't asked for it.
Right.
So you got to pick and choose, or just be present and be on the ready if an opportunity comes that you have it ready. So that's for me, is like create content, have it ready, and be prepared for it to outlive yourself. Because we read a lot of books that and we echo the ideas of a lot of now ancestors, right? So I would love to be that type of, and contribute to that, as far as, okay, maybe it might not apply now, but maybe when I'm gone, some of this information will still be, plausible, and you can add it to your life as a remedy. So that's the thing I think is biggest for me is, understanding that, and again, honing you, the positive component of it is, it makes me zero in on those that I'm closest to. It's not to say me and mine, because me and mine could be a whole community, right? So it isn't just your bloodline, but for those that you have, that you can reach out and touch, those are the ones I focus on, and hoping that they get at least a glimpse of it. It might not all make sense now, but once they become of age and that stuff is applicable, then they might recall something. The whole thing is about exposure. Get them exposure.
Here's what I love. So as we talk about a father's haven, creating peace, we're having this conversation and dialogue in the place of peace, which is Pauline's Tea Bar, right?
Yes.
This is where I come to reset, recharge, restore in the world where we just communicate resilience. So you mentioned something. You mentioned African center. And so the difference is, if you're looking at things from a Western center lens, then it's about systems and institutions, but more so from a transactional standpoint. Right? Talk a little bit about the holistic and comprehensive nature of addressing it from an African center perspective.
That's a nice one. I just recently so the beautiful thing I learned is that, and Harriet Tubman said this, is that, I don't want to mess it up, but the only thing new in the world is the history you don't know. All right, so this information is here. This may be new to you, and being able to apply that is what's important. So when I think about how stuff that I'm learning, I didn't know maybe even a month ago or 3 months ago, meaning continue to learn. And the most important thing is that you're always trying to learn more so that you can, apply those things, because we've been conditioned. So that's the one thing that I've learned is this past summer was the term unlearning. What the hell? Unlearning is a huge task because, and especially the older you are, the unlearning is when you're trying to question everything you've been taught and now try to find a remedy for it, or an alternative. Mm-hmm. So it's not just to say, I've been lied to or this doesn't work, but now you got to find out something that works in addition to that, because you just can't drop it and leave it. You still got to find something to replace it with. So to me, African-centered, to me is, like you said, it's not Western-based. It's communal in its core, and it's accountability. It's about, the whole, people say each one teach one. I'm like, man, each one reach many. It's not, don't be satisfied with one, you know what I'm saying? Because if you have more, you have a greater impact. So for me, it's the African-centered perspective of everything. Everything that we've been brought up into this world should be in question. From down to even today being the last day of Black History Month, I just put out stuff about us honoring our ancestors, living and transitioned ancestors. Because just as we will call the names of other historians, be it, for a holiday or a street name or a city, we should be doing that for our ancestors, keeping them alive. Because when you do that, then you create a timeline of lineage. So that, okay, well, who is Toussaint Louverture? Okay, you mention that name, someone hears it, they might want to go and look up who Toussaint Louverture is. And now you help spark a seed to help the work that he did now get reached to another generation. So it's about the accountability. It's about being the vanguard of our story and applying that to the next generation of passing it on like that baton. Because if we don't, my Jegna Anthony Browder talks about transition 13, that there'll become a point where you will forget that you forgot. And when you forgot that you forgot your history or your identity, that's what we've been going through over the last 500 years. We forgot that we forgot.
I love you just brought that up, because when we have the discussion of what healthy manhood is, it's when we don't have to put a word in ahead of the word that says responsible man, responsible fathers, right, or an initiative. Right. These are the conversations that lead us to normalizing something that creates systemic changes that impact our community 4 to 7 generations downstream.
That's right.
So to that point, as we look at it and we talk about the father's head, how, from your perspective, as you look at this from an entrepreneurial standpoint, how do we help orient our young people to remember what may have been forgotten? And more importantly, how do we help our brothers reclaim their rightful place and peace in a society that tells us we're only providers and protectors?
Yeah. I think the biggest part of that is filling the void of the balance. You've spoken about that, the balance of us being both the feminine and masculine principle, and realizing that tradition says, like you said, we're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that, and debunking all those myths. Again, that's a Western mindset. That's a cookie cutter model they say we're supposed to live by, and so you live that life, but still unfulfilled. Mm-hmm. And so the thing for me is with the Fatherless Haven is that it allows a space where brothers can be like, it's okay to be vulnerable. Like, but, generations before will say, nah, suck it up. You ain't supposed to cry. You ain't supposed to die. So I think that the biggest space for Father's Haven spot is to have where men can come together, one, and see each other in our most vulnerable states. And understand empathy about it, because we've all gone through things. I think you and I have a similar background with, a fatherless father. Being a fatherless father is like a blessing and a curse, because in one respect, you want to give your child everything you didn't have. And in the other respect, you have no idea what being a father is, because you weren't shown a model. So this haven allows us to feed off each other, learn from each other, pick up experiential skills, whatever it is, to enable us to be more sound. Because if we're in our head the whole entire time, it's one dimensional.
Right.
And that's not communal. So I think that's what the biggest piece is, having a space. It starts with the man itself. Before you can fix anybody, you got to fix yourself. You got to work on self. As much as we want to help the kids, if I'm broken or I need repair, I'm not going to be able to do well with trying to help and guide these children.
Right.
So that's what the father's table to me is important, is that we are in a space where brothers can say, you know what, we can talk, we can build, and there's no boundaries.
Right. Here's what's beautiful about what you just said. For me, it goes back to your point. First is introspective. Then it's reflective. We also need to be prospectively looking. And then we get to leverage our perspective because we took everything in. We filtered and analyzed the information. We took in what's useful for us so that as we navigate, we can go in a direction we need to go into. But more importantly, if something gets in our way, which many people will call a challenge or a barrier, which I basically call an opportunity, now we can shift or pivot in a different direction because of the power of the collective and the communal aspect of the Father's Haven, which is that brave space for us to lean into all those things that serve us and release all those things that don't serve us. And one of the beauties about the Father's Haven, we've had not only the men there, they brought their children there. And so you see some of the younger boys getting to see men have discourse and emoting without getting into an argument or a physical altercation.
I mean, when you think about it, like in most cases, when brothers get together, it's probably centered around a game. You know, the game is on, the playoffs or whatever, or, you know, really probably just that. I mean, so when I think about my upbringing and the uncles I had, you know what I mean, when they do get together to socialize, they're either playing a game or they're watching the game. But there's not the brotherhood conversation. And if it does happen, like, it's beef. You know what I'm saying? So, and that beef can be where you won't see it or you gonna hear it. There's no discretion. So that's the thing that, again, when you being a father's father, you're trying to figure out, okay, I see what I've seen, and that's not what I don't want to do that. So that's one thing I love about things you don't have when you're what's the word I want to say? When you are when you don't have certain experiences, you get the conjure up experiences you would want to have. But also, as you said, be perspective of looking what's around, and you can assess, okay, well, will I add that to my repertoire or not? And so I've had an abundance of experiences of what not to do.
Right.
So it made it easy for me to be like, I'm not going to be no knucklehead. Given the chance to be a father, I'm not going to be a knucklehead. I know what I would have wanted, and I also know the BS that's out there. So I think that's where the brotherhood thing helps too, is because it allows the children to see it, but more so even for us to rekindle some of us that didn't have that experience growing up. We get to see brother, they're like, whoa, we ain't beefing. Like we really poly, you know, being like that's an amazing feeling.
You know.
Yeah, I mean.
See what's also powerful about that is, one, society would tell us that there is no father. And so what I've learned, some amazing women in the world who understand that even though they may have not been actively engaged, the ones who realize the struggle that's going on, they'll shape it from a perspective of, we don't know the other person's story. And so maybe that person was doing what their assignment in this universe was, which was the purpose.
Right.
And so then there's no negative emotions to them. And so we all have two fathers, right? So that biological father and then the cosmic father, the creator, right? So if we search There's somebody out there. And then sometimes they got two more, because like when we just talk about your Jenga, right? You have that spiritual father. You may have a community father.
Right.
You may have the figurative adopted father, right? And then so on and so forth. It's just making sure that whoever fits in that role, we are. This is why it's important to have a father's haven or a pod where we get to hold each other accountable, so that like when we're doing something wrong, I need to pull you by your collar and say, hey,
It's really
that's not what we represent. This is our community. You were wrong in that instance. How do you take accountability? And how do you learn, and what have you learned from that situation?
right. That's facts. That's facts. I think that's the biggest thing too in a community that has been systemically designed to be broken, is that the rules, there are no rules. And so because of that, people are just, vibrating on whatever vibe they're on and not worrying about the repercussions of it, especially when there's youth involved and they see it. You know what I mean? And then that's the thing is, youth are going to be influenced by you or something or someone else. So when we look at the fact that the world itself currently, what they promote as family structure is negative, in my opinion. And if they also sit in the house, and that kind of like puts the stamp on it and validates it. So that's where even with me understanding that, okay, that's the outside world, but this inside world can't be anything like that outside world, because that's going to validate, and therefore that child will go out and think that this is how it's supposed to be.
Right. I mean, and here's what's there's so many texts that are out there. So of course you got the Bible. If you pay attention to other things, you got universal law that essentially says that as so above, so below, of course, or as outside, inside, right? Then we have the law of attraction and being intentional around what we say out our mouth, because those things are manifested into our reality. So when we say certain words for father, like for instance, and beat that, maybe dead broke, right? Maybe modeling what he's seeing as a result of a system designed to keep us in that direction. And then when you look at the universal concept, same thing with other ethnicities as well, because here we don't highlight the presence of males the same way as you do moms. And don't get me wrong, I think moms are amazing, but it's an opportunity for us to really rethink how we reference men, how we research men, and those misnomers around men are only providers or protectors.
Right.
And disciplinarians.
Right.
Matter of fact, let me back up. It's not even in the concept they use it. It's more of a punisher, enforcer.
Yeah.
Because disciplinarians come from the word disciple, which means you're student. And so, as a student, what they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the teacher is ready, the master appears. So that's the levels from a fatherless space that we got to go from student to teacher, from teacher to master teacher, who understands the intricacy and the balance of both teaching and learning, and being able to implement both of them in any given situation.
That's profound. Yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson that can be learned, and the goal is to have that lesson learned early, instead of later on. And we spoke about balance before, and how do you maintain that balance of that, because the real world is going to smack you down. The real world is not going to have your back. It's not going to speak words of encouragement and positivity to you. And in some cases, that energy can also find its way to fester to your own home, right, and to your own relationships. So as you mentioned about how does one find that balance, how does one find the tense, right, you know,
The father's haven.
the father's haven, bang, you know what I'm saying? Because that's where you are able to be, again, the vulnerability of it all, understanding you're not alone, that there are other folks that are going through the same thing, and what better way than to be amongst folks of the same, going through the same thing, your peers, because then you can find that the camaraderie, because we are dealing with whatever degree we're dealing with, it's the same systemic plan. And when you start to dissect it, that's the goal. Is to not just talk about your issues, but understand that, wait a minute, your issues are sound just like that person's issues. So is it systemic or is it individualistic? When you realize it's systemic, then you realize, okay, then there's a system, so it's not you, it's actually something above you, or that's governing you. Okay, well, let's spend some time on understanding what that is. And we understand what that is. Now you start to reverse engineer how you can sever that or change that mindset. The psychology is so, but it warrants a space to be able to just communicate, to talk, to share, and there's not too many spaces for men to do that.
And what I love is the other piece about the haven is we're talking about from the early inception of you knowing that the woman is pregnant because her very health depends on men creating a stress-free environment for her. We understand there are hormonal changes that happen during that time.
Yeah.
We talk about prenatal care, postpartum, how to navigate those things, the importance of breastfeeding in terms of cognitive development. Additionally, we want to talk about how to move. Say again?
Immune system.
Indeed. Yeah. Look, now you start to get into like the importance of that umbilical part as well.
Yes, sir.
So, and these are the conversations that we have there, as well as one of your areas of specialty beyond STEM, which is having discussions around economic maturity and how we position ourselves to not only survive, but how do we get to the point where we're creating generational legacy that allows us as a collective to thrive.
And to that point, I think the biggest nugget that, or I would say the igniter to that could be, because we're naturally we're doers, and gardening. We're better at doing for ourselves than having to do for someone else, right? That's the rat race kind of psychosis, that you're supposed to get a job and work for someone, and that's supposed to be your life. Opposed to you are obtaining and acquiring for yourself, and I'm able to, in some cases, manage yourself. So it's not to say all brothers go quit your jobs and do your own thing. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, when an individual, male or female, is able to create their own thing, be it no matter how large or minute it is, it gives you a sense of responsibility and pride, and it can be contagious because now you want to do the next thing. So what I'm leading towards is mastering not just your finances, but mastering simple things like, okay, well, how can I, as part of finances and budgeting, is, well, how can I cut down my food bill? Can I grow some old things? Yeah. Something as simple as that was a prerequisite. Right there. When our grandparents went to school, they were taught gardening when they went to school, and they took it out of the schools. Why? So we could be dependent on the food market. Sure. And they're feeding us, and we know the nutritional values that aren't there. We're learning these things now. So the thing, as far as a sense of purpose and pride, is when a person is able to actually have a hand in their individual sustainability. Like I said, finances, yes. But even if you don't want to do the money thing, growing herbs in your own house, so that when you get a cold, or or when you're not feeling well, you're not going to the pharmacy, and actually the pharmacy started on the farm. So it's like you're going in your backyard and getting what you need.
Here's what's funny. Because I was getting ready to drive us in a direction, because as we talk money, budgeting, and leveraging seeds to grow our own food, to nourish our bodies, I was getting ready to go to the next component, which is real medicine is our food anyway. So the herbs we eat.
Yeah.
When we get an injury, how to reduce inflammation by creating salves and different things of that nature that historically our elders knew very well. And so this is something we have to become very knowledgeable of, because at the end of the day, when you pay attention to certain pills, it'll have like 20 lines of side effects of taking the pill.
Exactly.
Even to the point where it may kill you.
Yep. Yep.
So we gotta have those discussions. And now, granted, I understand that medicine has its place, and it's a time and place where you're going to have to leverage it, maybe. But if you understand the nature of what your ailment is, and this is why we gotta have these conversations at the age. If you start to teach young people early, so they have a curiosity for how you heal your body, which some people, I don't need to sleep much. Well, sleep is where restoration and repair happens, so that we can wake up anew like the phoenix and come back stronger the next day. And so our body gives us signs and symptoms when we're not doing the thing we're supposed to. I.e., you get acne. Well, that's just your body detoxifying, right, and trying to get those impurities out.
Yeah. As man, this is why I love this space, because it's not one dimensional, it's multi-tiered, which is that is an Eastern mindset. When I say Eastern, that's not equated to Asian, it's African. You know what I'm saying? But it's like it encompassed everything. Everything was a part of everything. So when we're talking about health, the one thing that we take for granted is that when you're younger, and it's like your brand new car. So you can withstand the bumps, you can withstand the long rides or whatnot. But it's when you get older, those same habits that creep up on you. So the goal is to set good habits early so that can last you throughout. Because we're in the habit of practicing reactive medicine, not preventative medicine. And medicine doesn't mean the doctor. Medicine means, what are you putting in what is going between your gums every day? It's one thing that a doctor most likely will not ask you when you go to see them, is they're not going to ask you what you're eating first.
Right.
They don't care about your diet, because that's the reason you're there, but they're not going to tell you that. So the goal is to get us to become aware of when you're not in control of how your food is being produced. And yes, it tastes great. International Flavoring Federation, IFF, outside of New Jersey Turnpike, is the reason why so-called foods taste so good, because they're scientists with clear samples and putting it on something to make it taste like grapes, strawberries, whatever you want, whatever flavor you want. No matter what it is you're eating, it's going to taste the way a certain thing tastes, because we become slaves to our taste buds, not the nutritional value. So the goal is to getting us to understand what food is and what should be, and maybe what can be in moderation. And if you can set that habit early, then you won't have to necessarily worry about being on medicine or being on pills and stuff when you're in your 30s or 40s and 50s.
So to your point, as you was just going ahead and normalizing all the components of manhood, from normalizing the food intake we put in or take in, the entertainment that we visually or audibly take in, the network we surround ourselves around, and a lack thereof accountability partners to help us drive. And then somebody even challenge our, what I would call excessive drive, even without any balance, will lead to us essentially breaking down. Because either you're going to sit down or the creator is going to lay you down because you always need to be able to repair. So, as we talk about that and we talk about behaviors, let me ask you this: how do we redefine fatherhood for 3 generations downstream to create a culture of healthy? And when I say healthy, I'm saying healthy relative to having my physical checkup, same way I take my car to get its tuned up, its oil changed, its tires rotated. As men, you spoke earlier about having the world on your shoulders. We know that was Atlas's curse. Right? And so if that's a curse, we have to understand that if you and I are in space together and we share and do a lot of things together, I'm gonna help you lift some of that in addition to the other brothers who are part of the haven. So we create real community that would balance and offset any of my flaws, because although we love to throw out this word that says nobody's perfect, but I would say that we're all perfect, because the opposite of perfect is imperfect, which broken down in 2 words says I'm perfect. Right. So let's talk about the imperfection of fatherhood. How do we normalize this ecosystem so that 3 to 5 generations in the future, they're prepared and ready?
I would say that at the foundation, there needed to be structure. So what I mean by that is like itemizing, you got to plan it out. And the plan needs to be laid out in a way where, it's structured in a way where you're talking about a what do they have? You familiar with the SWOT analysis?
Yeah, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat.
Absolutely. So incorporating that type of analysis to let's assess who we are, and even it's like a business plan. You know what I mean? Like you lay it out like, okay, here's the end goal, and then you reverse engineer it. How do we get there? We know where we want to get. How do we get there? And then I think the most important part of it is we don't need to get caught up into the numbers of how many. It's more about the quality. So how do you build up a person? Well, accountability. So as you mentioned, when you have accountability partners, they're like, okay, my assignment is to make sure that you are reaching a goal that you said you wanted or you agreed to be at. If you agree that every 90 days you're going to get a checkup, then that's the case. If you agree that for every week you're going to the gym or you're going to do something physically 4 days a week, the accountability is there. And then whatever we could talk about the repercussions, like what that might look like, because sometimes accountability isn't just enough. The repercussions got to be severe enough to make you do it, But in essence, I think the biggest part is structure. We need to look at the fact that we don't have any structure right now. As they say, if you keep doing the same thing you're doing, you get the same results. So if we want different results, we're going to have to commit to doing something totally different. And so that may mean if you don't have a plan, you need a plan.
Love it.
We just sit down and be like, okay, and let's itemize it and be as particular about it as possible so that we reach the goal that we're trying to get at. And like I said, for me, you got your partners, you got brothers you hang out with and whatnot. But if all y'all do is hang out with nothing, like hanging out and having a good time, and that's all you do, you don't talk about bettering self in all aspects, then as they say, if you hang around people that are broke, you're in a nonprofit organization. So if you want to be profitable, not just financially, but as far as in life, what do? You need to put in the time. You need to commit. And the best thing I think to do is just atoning yourself to being having an accountability partner and being.
Yeah. So to your point, one of the beauties is it don't have to be like when you have 10 people can turn to 20 people, which ultimately can turn into 20 times 10, that could be 200, so on and so forth. So you don't have to have critical mass at the beginning.
Exactly. Just gotta get started.
Right. Consistency, the ability to evolve, create an environment where trust is embraced. We create those supportive elements.
I'll even say be okay with the number being small. Because I think everybody wants to do something big. That's a Western mindset. You know, they say, go big, go home. Everything, big cars, everything got to be big. But the most smallest things usually are more sustainable because I don't have to monitor 100 people. I just got to make sure I'm watching 10 people.
Yep.
And therefore, we're better on par where we're trying to reach.
So to your point, so when I say like 200 or even 2,000, I'm talking about in pies.
Oh, no, I agree. No, 100%. I'm just saying that we can be okay with, you know, like, let's not get caught up. Not that you're saying that, but like the average person, like, okay, we're going to have an effect when we're at this amount of numbers.
Right.
Nah.
That's back to us falling into the trap around data, which data is anything. And so, well, that's qualitative. No, qualitative can be quantified as well.
Right.
However, to your point, it's got to be relational. Because when you get huge numbers, it becomes transactional.
Yep.
It becomes transactional. So Maya Angelou said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's right.
So we got to let them know that we value them. Then we got to support them and watch how they support us. And that's how we create ecosystem that turn into legacy, because we're going back and reciprocating the very benefit and blessing that we receive. And the Father's Haven, here's what's beautiful. I watch men who come through the Haven turn back around and help other brothers get jobs once they get into management positions. We listen to fathers call and be a earpiece for somebody to vent to when they have been experiencing something. So as we close out, Brother M'Bwebe, can you do me a favor and give the audience first 2 things you're grateful for, and then lastly, give them your contact information.
Okay. 2 things I'm grateful for, man, is, and I know people say it and they might not really go in depth about it, but breath. I mean, like, I got up this morning, no pain. You know, I got up this morning and can decide my day because I don't have any pain. I don't have any, you know, I'm thankful that I have a roof over my head. Those basic things, that's one thing I'm grateful for. And that's also something that I take for granted. So you go out and if you want to get up tomorrow and feel good, and do something today to ensure that. You know, right. The second thing I would say that I'm grateful for is relationships. Relationships that are authentic. I mean, and I was speaking particularly about my relationship as far as like how organic it's been. It's been effortless and connecting. And it's like, for me, it's, you know, moving here from Brooklyn is like meeting a brother that's already in the space. And I see how people see you and how you embraced me on the same level. That to me is something I'm extremely thankful for, and will do whatever is necessary to maintain that rank. If anything, go up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thankful for that. And as far as contacting me, you can reach me on social media. M'Bwebe Ishanga, that's M'Bwebe Ishanga, Ishangi. You can reach me on IG, Facebook, TikTok, and also CryptoWokeMovement.com is one website. Another one is the Ghetto Times, DAGHETTOTYMZ. And you can reach me there.
Yo, you heard it right here. Another episode of the Father's Haven, where we're discussing how we radically transform and normalize fatherhood, support spaces, resources, chop shops, community healing places, for our community. Be on the lookout for a new Facebook page coming soon so that you can sign up. We'll accept you and bring you into the community because it takes one of us to move all of us. So we're starting in this pod and we'll be moving to spaces all throughout the globe. So until the next episode, I will see you brothers later, and let's continue to link up with your brothers from across the city and state. Respect.
Let's go. Bless.
Bless up.
Peace, blessings, and elevation. We will bring you inspiring stories, expert insight, and practical tools and information to support you. Types in embracing our authentic selves, we can pave the way for a brighter future for ourselves and our children. Empower, heal, and support fathers and men on their journey. I'm your host, Kelly Little, aka the Village King. Welcome to the Father's Haven.